Hey, GenderqueerChat. Joe here, Sundays. I'm sick again. Don't get me started. I turned 40 in August and I've been sick like ever since, pretty much. I was sick in August, September, October I was okay, and now it's November and I'm sick again. Okay, this week's topic was from a viewer, and the question is such. Has shame affected your coming to terms with your genderqueer identity? If so, how have you dealt with those feelings? And what advice would you give to someone currently dealing with shame and their own self acceptance? Excellent question. This glare is making me crazy. Um, as you probably know from previous videos of mine, I suffer from borderline narcissism. I really like myself. I always have. I don't recall ever being ashamed of myself. I was raised in a Catholic family, and Catholic is all about shame. Catholic is all about shame. You're supposed to be ashamed for being born, being a sinner, being this, being that. And ever since I could remember, I can't lean. I have to move this. Sorry. I'm sniffly. I've got a cold. Okay, let's sit like this. Hopefully it won't fall. Ever since I can remember, I was sort of told to be ashamed of myself, but I refused to be. I just couldn't muster it. I couldn't muster the feelings of shame. There were a few things in my life. I'm just trying to think. A few weeks ago, I did a video where we were talking about things you regret, and I said, "Oh yeah, that guy whose canoe I cut in half," and then I said, but I preceded it immediately by saying, "I've never done anything in anger. Oh, except the time I cut that guy's canoe in half." And somebody called me out on it in the comments, and I was laughing so hard because, yeah, I sounded completely ridiculous. But even that, I'm not terribly ashamed of. I probably should be ashamed of that, but I don't regret things. I don't regret the person I used to be, and I don't regret. I definitely don't think about myself in the past with a sense of resent, not resentment, but regretfulness or shame. But shame is, I think, more of a sensation of the present when you're ashamed of who you are. Not so much who you used to be, but who you are. I think that's what the viewer was getting at. I just took my glasses off. Has shame affected coming to terms with your genderqueer identity? Perhaps slightly, insofar as I obviously was never much of a girl. It was obvious. And so when you're not like other girls, but you like boys and you're trying to sort of compete for the same male attention or whatever, there is a sense of what's wrong with me, or I should try harder to look like a girl, right? I should wear makeup. But then this inner desire to just not want to do that, this inner desire, like, I think when I first stopped wearing makeup, I wore makeup when I was probably 16 and 17, but by the time I was 18 or 19, maybe even a little later than that, I had watched this documentary on uh, it was Desmond Morris. He's a zoologist and he looks at humans as animals. He does these amazing documentaries where he talks about like the male and the female of the species, and he's talking about like the pair bond and all that, and it's the male and the female and they're humans. And he was talking about how human females make their typically what adult females do is they make their eyes bigger with makeup, they pink up their cheeks with rouge, and they make their lips very disproportionately large with lipstick. And he was saying that, and they make their bodies hairless. And what that does is when you look at an infant baby, their eyes are disproportionately large compared to their head, their lips are disproportionately large compared to their head, and their cheeks are usually rosy, and their body is hairless. So what it's doing is a human adult would be infantilizing themselves, right? To stir something in the male of the species to want to take care of them. And ever since I saw that documentary, I think I was living up north. I want to say 21, 22. I was maybe 22 when I saw that documentary. Something in my brain clicked, and I never, ever wore makeup again. And I was ashamed that I ever had, quite frankly. I guess that's sort of a shame. Like, disgusted with myself that I had ever fallen prey to that craziness. But I don't know. I don't tend to use the word shame. I read a book by John Bradshaw. I think it was called Love, but I could be wrong. John Bradshaw is this like really awesome psychologist guy who writes books on reclaiming, sense of self and losing childhood shame and stuff like that. And I'm sure there were chapters in there that I read when I was in my early 20s that rang true. Because again, being raised in a Catholic family and being steeped in a sense of shame, I'm sure I felt it. I'm not remembering it. Here I am 20 years later or whatever. And I'm not remembering ever feeling shame, but I know I must have, because all Catholics feel it. So part of the question was, have you dealt, sorry, getting old. How have you dealt with the feelings, and what advice would you give to someone currently dealing with shame and their own self-acceptance? I guess my biggest piece of advice would be go for therapy. Go for because therapy is an amazing thing. I've been, and if not, if you can't afford therapy, I don't recommend going to someone with a sliding scale because I went one time and it sucked. You can watch a previous video on that. Just Google gender queer in therapy. I think I made one about a year or two ago. But you know, read self-help books. Although I don't know, a lot of people swear up and down that those don't work. I don't know what to say. As someone who doesn't feel terribly ashamed of myself, I guess I really try to take that into consideration, that stupid Bible verse. And by the way, I will mention something in a few minutes. I'm not Christian, obviously. I hate everything about the Bible pretty much. I think it's a misogynist, kind of hateful piece of crap. But that's my humble opinion. But there is that treat your others as you would want to be treated. And when I flip that on its head and take it for what it is, it's I treat myself the way I treat others. I'm very kind to other people, but I'm not always kind to me. And I'm not too hard on other people about certain things, but I can be about me. So what I attempt to do is not, you know, treat myself the way I would want others to treat me, or the way I treat others. Which brings me kind of full circle. On Friday, I went to a funeral of a friend of mine, and I didn't know she was like a very, very devout Baptist Christian. It was a mega church, and the preacher was screaming at us all about how our lives are worthless unless you accept Christ into your life. And I actually had to leave halfway through the service. I couldn't take it anymore. I really, really, really couldn't take it anymore. I do not like being yelled at and preached at about Christian gospel. It makes me crazy. So Jay, I'm sorry. I don't know that I answered your question other than I think self-esteem, it's a process. I think you have to work on it bit by bit. Be gentle on yourself, forgive yourself. I do believe in kind of like you know, if you repeat something 17 times, you sometimes believe it's true. Just constantly remind yourself that there's nothing wrong with you as you are. Um, I don't know what else to say on that subject. Okay, the bonus question is what song, album, or artist do you like to listen to when you're down about your gender identity? Oh, wow. I've never really been down about my gender identity. I'm a sucker for really sad, sad music. I guess my favorite album of all time is called I'm Alive by Jackson Browne. Um, or I Say by Erasure. There we go, techno pop and folk. Or Eminem. Oh, you know what's good to listen to when you're down is Eminem. I'm serious. I love like I'm Not Afraid or Lose Yourself, like power to like angry songs about just not letting the man get you down. Um, yeah, I recommend those. Have a good week, you guys.